Today, I am going to be telling you guys about my little October wrap up. There's just nothing more I love than a little well sunlit iPhone video. I just love it very much. It is a lovely November 1st today. Oh, I need my iPad. Hold on. Let me turn it on for the aesthetic, for the vibes. Okay. Oh, this is testing me. Everyone situated? Everyone got a cup of coffee? We're ready? We're good? Let's start off with the movies I watched because it's kind of a limited list this month. I, of course, saw Queen Taylor, Mother Taylor's Eras Tour concert film. And this one I rated like 5 stars on Letterboxd, but I'm just gonna give it a heart for this video for the sake of it because I recognize the fact that this is not really a movie and this is not really something that everyone is gonna love. But in terms of the way that this film makes you feel the atmosphere of going to the show for a fraction of the price of tickets. I did not have very expensive tickets for this concert, but they were still like close to 10 times what I paid to go watch this movie in my local theater. Getting to see people dress up, trade friendship bracelets in movie theaters, dance. I know there's been a lot of like hubbub online about whether this is how you should act. I think there's just something to be said for people getting to be excited in an environment when it's appropriate for them to just like let their fandom kind of shine. I've always been a champion of fandom. I love fan culture and people getting to enjoy things. And I think Taylor Swift brings that out in specifically a lot of young women through her words, her performances, the things she says at her show. And a lot of people, especially in my generation, have grown up with her songs and her music and have gotten even more and more into her music as these re-recorded albums have come out. And so I thought it was really beautiful to get to see. My theater didn't even go that crazy, but it was just so fun to go and get to experience this. I also watched this month the Haunted Mansion, the 2023 Haunted Mansion, kind of the remake, reboot, whatever you want to call it. The one with Lakeith Stanfield and Rosario Dawson and Owen Wilson and Danny DeVito and Tiffany Haddish. This movie really surprised me. I did not really want to watch this, and my husband was like, come on, like, let's just give it a shot. And it was really charming. I think the thing that was so beautiful about maybe just the Haunted Mansion ride in general, or more specifically the theming of this specific iteration of the Haunted Mansion story, is that it's celebrating that life does have an end, but that doesn't make it, that kind of makes it more beautiful, and also the fact that there can still be a connection to people who have passed on, who no longer are in your life. And this happens with a couple specific different characters. You know how in the beginning of like every kind of cheesy Christmas movie, there's somebody who like doesn't have the Christmas spirit, and by the end they accept the magic of the season or the true reason for giving back around Christmas. In this movie, I felt that, but specifically for Halloween, this celebration that these people had this life full of joy and excitement, and just because they're gone now doesn't mean like we can't enjoy as much as we can. And I think there's just a really interesting storyline between Lakeith Stanfield's character and the young boy in the film. Both have experienced loss in their lives, yet learn how to deal with that grief and live with that grief. And I thought that was really beautiful. I ended up giving it 3 stars on Letterboxd, which in my head is like 6 out of 10 rating, but you do with that information what you will. I definitely don't think it's like a perfect film, but I really don't think it's that bad. And I think the only reason that it came out this summer was so that it would be up on streaming for Halloween. And I definitely took that bait, and I'm glad that I did. And then last night for Halloween, my husband and I decided to watch The Cabin in the Woods, which I am like a scaredy cat. Like, I am notoriously a scaredy cat. Like, I cannot do clowns. I cannot do stop motion animation. No, just like those are my spooky icks that I just can't deal with. The whole concept of the film is there's these 5 college kids who go to this cabin for the weekend, and then some spooky stuff starts happening, but you realize that there are these people who are controlling, kind of like the Hunger Games, game maker-esque people who are kind of controlling what happens to them and what these haunts are and what monsters attack them and that sort of thing. And so the whole movie, you're kind of switching back and forth from these different perspectives and exploring what is happening there. It's really funny to hear Chris Hemsworth like really hide the Australian accent. It's a pretty fun one, but definitely one that I would recommend to other people just because of the way that the story unfolds. It's very clever. It has the humor and tone as Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is one of the shows I've been watching this month. I've been watching it with my sweet friend Bailey, who is also on YouTube. I will have like some links to her channel below. We've been buddy watching this, and it's been so wonderful to get to talk to somebody about the show kind of as you're going through it at the same point, who has it as fresh in their mind as you do, it's such a delightful show. Like, I think everything about it, I see all of the different factors of a supernatural teen drama in this show, and to see how they've been played out over the course of 10, 20 years since the show's original inception. It's amazing. It's so good. I am just into season 2, so please no spoilers, but I've really been enjoying that. I've also been watching the newest season of Rick and Morty, which is good so far. I honestly fell asleep during the second episode because I was watching it a little too late, so I need to catch back up on that one. But I enjoyed kind of the return of Unity in the third one this season. Of course, I've been loving Loki. I don't even need to explain that to you. I'm very excited for this 5th episode because, as I stated in my reviews, I've sort of been hanging on this show for a long time. Season 2 is really just knocking it out of the park for me. And in terms of its visual style, that's slightly changed from the first season. It's almost like the notch has been turned up on everything, and I love it very much. Ahsoka, I finished the very beginning of this month. I have nothing else to say other than it's fine. There were parts of the show that were phenomenal. I think the standout of this season is the actor that plays Ezra was great. I really enjoyed him. And the storyline where Ahsoka is kind of in the dream spirit world and she's talking to Anakin, that entire thing with the younger actress from Barbie / Infinity War, she was phenomenal, and I really loved that. But I'm really sorry. I just really did not like any of the storyline having to do with Sabine. I just really was not there for it. I felt like by the end of the show, you could guess things that were going to happen. It also felt very incomplete in terms of a season. It felt somehow rushed, too slow, confusing, and a little too obvious at the same time, which you're just going to be you literally don't even have a smart argument against the show. I really think that it's just that they tried to do too much with a show that was titled after a singular character that was presented in the limited series type first season format that most of these Marvel shows are presented in. And this show could have been 12 episodes, could have been better. Again, I stand by the fact that if you're going to have a show with a character's title in the name for recognizability purposes, then you better be sure that your episode or your show is about that character. Your show needs to be centered around that character and not having storylines in episodes where they barely show up. That's ridiculous to me. And yet this show also had some of the coolest villains, and I just wasn't there for Ahsoka or Sabine. It wasn't for me. I have heard from a lot of Rebels fans that they really enjoyed it. I've heard from just general Star Wars fans that they really enjoyed it, and I am personally happy about that. It just wasn't for me. And then lastly, even prior to the tragic passing of Matthew Perry, I've been watching Friends a lot. This time of year, I really just want a comfort show in the background. Spooky season got to me a little too much, and so I really just needed a comfort show in the background, and that for me will always be Friends, and maybe even more so now. It's just, I've watched so much of Friends in the last month. I've fallen asleep to it, and especially now after the tragic, heartbreaking passing of Matthew Perry, it just feels like this show exists in this very beautiful way in what it means to people, what it meant to the cast, what it did for their careers, how he talks about it in his audiobook, which I'm currently listening to. It just feels so special, and I think it's something that we've really yet to see in a show since, in the same cultural and emotional personal impact, if that makes sense. So Friends is just, I don't know why, but fall is just when I think about Friends the most and want to watch it the most. And last but not least, we have what I read this month. I'll give you this one for free. I DNF'd Once Upon a Broken Heart. Now listen, the last book in this trilogy came out, and I was like, you know what? Everybody raves about these books. I've got to read them. I can understand why people might like them. There's a lot of books that I don't personally like that I know are popular that I understand. Even if I don't like them, I can understand why other people do. And this was an example. I think the writing is very well done. It's very lyrical. The descriptions of everything are very much like a fairy tale. That's true. But I like fairy tales where there's plot and we understand where that's going. Character development is a great thing, and it's starting from a naive point of view as a character and going somewhere where the character understands more about the world around them is also great. And I'm not saying you can't have that, but I was not in the mood as a 23-year-old woman to read about this 16-year-old girl naively trusting people, and it just wasn't for me. So I DNF'd it. I also read a couple other, I'll be honest, lackluster books this month. So I read Spookly Yours, which is an indie book, I believe. I got it off of Kindle Unlimited, read it so fast. It's only 244 pages. I wanted to read something that was specifically Halloween, fall, spooky romance. And this is about a witch who adopts this cat. Turns out the cat is actually a demon trapped in cat form, and she's got to use her witchy powers. I feel like the first 50 pages of this book were really about the dynamic of a witch in this kind of Gilmore Girls-esque town, and she runs this bakery. I was like, this is really cute. After that, it just became insta love and kind of turned into ACOTAR by the end, which y'all may know that I'm not the biggest fan of. I gave it 2 stars, which feels really harsh, but the book wasn't for me, and I don't think it was the best written. However, I love to support indie authors, so definitely go give it a shot if you think you might be interested. And the author, Jennifer Chipman, has a lot of other books that I think are also available on Kindle Unlimited. Then I also finished this month, which was a drag for me to get through. The Chosen and the Beautiful. Hold on, let me grab it really fast. I don't have all of these books physically, but the ones I do, I need to grab. Okay, now this book, The Chosen and the Beautiful, I was sold on because it's a Great Gatsby retelling. The Great Gatsby, if you're not aware, is what I think is the greatest piece of American literature, one of the greatest classics of all time. I love The Great Gatsby with my whole heart. I've read it 3 times. It's a short, beautiful book with so many themes about the American dream, about love, about how sometimes just what you get in life is not enough and people crave more and where that drives them. I love it. So the concept of a retelling of this with a Jordan Baker focus, I was like, this is super fascinating. And then it was on a buy one, get one fantasy shelf. So I was like, yes, absolutely. Let me grab this. When I say that this book had a concept that I was all about, and yet it delivered on none of the promises of the concept. There is a little bit of culturally specific paper cutting magic that takes place in this book, but I don't know if it's the way that the author is trying to match F. Scott Fitzgerald's writing style that makes it confusing to where I don't understand the magic. The magic is mentioned at the very beginning of the book and then in the last 50 pages of the book. It doesn't really ever center on the plot. It doesn't really explain anything away. It's basically The Great Gatsby is taking place. Jordan Baker is adopted and I believe Vietnamese, and she has this power that she doesn't really know how to use. And then The Great Gatsby takes place, except for the fact that all of the characters might kind of be bisexual, which is fine, but I don't know where that came from. Then there's a crazy, unnecessary, I'll be honest, spicy scene between Jordan Baker and Nick Carraway, which I never needed. And then the book ends exactly how The Great Gatsby did. I don't like to hate on people individually. A lot of people passed through this book. A lot of people edited this book. She worked really hard on it, and it's something I really admire. And she's a published author and a national bestseller. And who am I? A girl on the internet. This book felt like there were specific portions of The Great Gatsby that are so iconic that word for word are basically just, and then there's all these random other things to make it different. But it's not actually different at all. It's actually not. The book, and so to me, I'm like, is that a retelling? Or did you basically just write Great Gatsby canon-friendly fan fiction? That's kind of more so what it ended up feeling like. There's that. Then I read one of my favorite books of this entire year. I'm not even being dramatic. I started You Again by Kate Goldbeck. And Miss Kate, I'd seen a couple booktubers with it. I blindly added it from the library and started reading it on my phone. And next thing I knew, I finished it in less than 24 hours. When people talk about a 5-star just capturing you and you can't think about anything else other than reading this book and literally not being able to put it down, 100% what happened to me in this book. The book just captured me so early on. I just loved it. I read it so fast. I absolutely devoured this book, and that's why it was a 5-star read for me. And then I've thought about it all the time since. So this book follows Ari and Josh, 2 people who, through a variety of different not great first, second, third impressions, kind of decide they just don't like each other, but they don't really interact that often until one day something goes different in one of their interactions and they decide to kind of become friends and kind of put their differences aside. And so they form this really beautiful friendship. And then kind of as the time goes on, they realize I don't want our friendship to end because this person gets married or starts dating somebody that doesn't want me hanging around. And so they start to have these feelings for each other. And it is, the best way to describe it is kind of a hate to friendship to love story, which the most classic one of these ever is When Harry Met Sally, of course. And that's what the author, Kate Goldbeck, who I think is a creative genius, and this is her debut novel, I will instantly purchase anything she writes ever in the future, ever, ever, ever. It was that good. I loved this book so much. And I've seen multiple people DNF it. I've seen multiple people be really upset because they thought it was When Harry Met Sally. And I think the thing is, these characters are deeply unlikable. And you don't have an actor that you have kind of like comedy, or you see their facial expressions or the way they move their body going along with their lines. So I think that's what's very special about When Harry Met Sally, and that's why no one's been able to do that ever again. Like, the stars have not aligned, I think, in the way that they did for that movie for really anything else. I think the people that are disappointed with it expected too much of it to be an exact play-by-play novelization of When Harry Met Sally, and I can understand the disappointment there. But for me, it nailed that wanting to be around someone's presence and realizing how that might mean that you're actually kind of in love with them, and how those feelings of like, they're my best friend can turn into, I love this person. Like, I love everything about them, even all the stuff about them that pisses me off. Moving on from that, I've poured my heart out for that book. Kate Goldbeck, please write another book soon, so that I can devour it again. Please. I will pre-order it. That's how serious I am about your books. I have been reading Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This book is about these two doctors who initially don't really get along. Can you tell that there's something I like in these romance books? One of them writes a letter to the other, and then they kind of start writing these letters back and forth and get to know each other. This is something kind of similar to You Again, in the sense that there's something about when you are not talking to somebody face to face, or it's somebody that you kind of dislike, you come from a more honest place than someone you're trying to get to like you. This has been enjoyable so far. I'm probably about 100 pages in, but it's not really gripping me in the way that I wanted it to. And so I think I'm just going to slowly make my way through this one. My queen, Leigh Bardugo, I'm reading Ninth House. Once again, let me swap. I purchased this along with The Chosen and the Beautiful. I love Leigh Bardugo's writing. Leigh Bardugo is one of the greatest authors and talents of our time. I stopped it briefly because the first chapter was a lot to process, the world building and kind of the different mythologies and legends that she's weaving into this story, which she does really well. Now that I've gotten a little bit further, it's really fun to get to see all of it take place. But this is a book about kind of the secret societies of Yale, where Leigh Bardugo went to college, and exploring, like, what if these secret societies, all the conspiracy theories about these secret societies were actually true, and they do actually practice magic, and they do actually kind of consult with the future and predict things, and then they run our society. Fun. There's also a mystery involved here of, like, where are these characters, because there's a kind of split timeline. I just think that the way it's written is going to be more and more fun as more of the story unfolds, and I'm really enjoying it. My only fear is that once I finish this book, I know it will wreck whatever TBR or new release I'm trying to build for myself, because I'll immediately want to go to Hellbent. So that's everything that I watched in October. Speaking of all these thousands of books that I've read, I am trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by my birthday in December. We are getting close to 1 month away from this, and we're pretty dang close to 4,000 subscribers. I would really appreciate if you joined our little community here and helped me on my journey to that 5,000 subscriber mark. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you listening to me ramble about all the things that I watched, read, and listened to. I didn't really listen to that much other than Taylor Swift, so let's be honest. Have a great day. I'll see you guys soon. Hope you're having a great start to your November, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.